Okay. Thank you. Welcome, Jessica L.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for saying yes to doing this. We'll try to make it as rough as, as easy as possible. We have minutes from October 17th and July 18th. If you remember whether you were here, you should say aye or abstain if you weren't. So, I didn't know. Do you remember who was here on the 18th of July?
I got it right here. Harry was here, Jay was here, I was here, Scott, John, you.
Do you think I was here on the 10/17?
On July?
No, July 18th, I thought it's the 17th.
Yeah, it's everyone but Craig.
So I have a motion to approve the July 18th minutes first.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Jamie, for doing them. October 17th, do we have?
That one I wasn't in.
I was not here for that.
I wasn't here.
That means we can't vote. We can't vote on that one, so would you put that in old business, please? We have no public speaking. Communications, Jamie, anything from, I noticed we got 20 million from the state is being divided as we got a supplemental last year. You know how much that means for us, did they say? I don't want to put you in the spot if you don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what that kind of
Gave us a good, what, they give us 10% more last year, 5%. You don't know. What this, just to catch you up, Jessica, the governor and the government, when we had, they had a surplus last year and this year, they added 20 million to the pie CPA distribution, which added, I think it added a couple $100,000 more.
Great.
It's great. But even so, they finally passed the bill that guarantees 30%, which we've been down to as low as 10 for a while, really low at times. So now we're getting guaranteed 30%, which to me bodes well for major ticket items like Old Town Hall, where we have to buy, if we have to bond or something, we want to make sure we have money for other projects. And that guarantee helps. Even though we can't use that, we have other money, that other money that comes in. It's very good. Account balances and open projects. I had a couple of questions, Jamie. There were a couple in here that seem to be done based on your narrative.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, how do we transfer that funds? I always want our remaining balances back in our spot.
So, which ones were you looking
I had it all set up and I forgot the damn paperwork.
at? The first time home buyer.
Like the Old Town Hall design phase is complete.
Yeah, so,
And that has 3,800 and, no, wrong one. That has $63,000 in it. That's the one I was looking at. Is that
So-
done?
if you recall, what happened was we, City Space applied for a larger grant request to both CPA and the state. CPA funded the larger amount, the state did not. And rather than rescinding the money that they weren't awarded to get a 50-50 match, that extra funds were put in, $60,000 or so was put aside for later. So when they came back, if they needed it,
Needed for what? This is a design phase money, and it's not money for
yeah,
anything else.
it was for the request from City Space was for construction creation of construction documents from their design plans. And so the state didn't fund, the Mass Cultural Facilities Grant didn't fund the construction documents because they wanted to wait until the rest of the construction monies were raised.
So that money is being held, if I understand you right, held into that account for design phase for construction documents, but we're not going to be asking for those until we actually decide to move forward with the entire construction.
Right.
And that's when it's sent out to bid. So we've got the design done, but did we approve that, holding it? I don't remember.
Yes, and so because the committee at the time decided it was going to be a 50-50 match, it was like $135,000 was awarded from the state. So the remaining $60,000 that was awarded by CPA was being held until they were able to find a match for it.
So it still wants to be held.
Unless you don't want to hold it there anymore, you can come back and reapply for it.
What's the committee's thoughts? I have no problem keeping it there because construction documents to me are part of design.
Well, they're the final plans that.
They didn't want to send those out because they wanted to wait until the construction was going to begin. I have no problem with that. It was just a question because it says design phase complete in your narrative.
Right. So,
Anybody want the money back? I mean,
No, then it doesn't have to come back and ask for it anyways.
okay.
So if I'm understanding though, that that's not gonna cover the full cost of this construction documents, that they're waiting for other funds to come in, and then when that other money comes in, then they'll utilize this to
correct. So it's like, I think they need another 60,000 or so just to match what we've already got.
Okay.
And they don't have it in their bank account, it's on ours, and they get,
Yeah, and so they're still collecting.
they have to get the money anyway, so.
That's right.
And the CPA.
It's not like they can dangerously use it for something like fixing the facade, they need another $1 million. All right. That's the only one that I was really worried about. Not worried, just wondering about. Okay, on the agenda, you'll see an item regarding the reimbursed mayor's budget for city solicitor legal opinions. This is me because as a city councilor, we have been made quite aware of the cost of city attorney fees because we've been doing a great deal of legal work, like 1 Ferry Street, like all of the ordinances we've been doing. And those costs are extraordinary. So when we needed a legal opinion, and just to catch Jessica up, we had to get an opinion for the netting to make sure that that wasn't the netting on Old Town Hall, City Space applied to get some netting up so that the facade pieces that were breaking off wouldn't hit people on the ground. And there was a concern that that was considered maintenance and therefore was not eligible. We wanted to make sure, because those people that don't like the CPA could probably say, hey, you shouldn't have needed that money. The city attorney came back and said, no, it's okay, it's part of the phases of that project. But that legal opinion cost money. And I said, why don't we, so that if we ever want legal opinion, we can establish the precedence of paying for it out of our administrative costs. Jamie feels that that's appropriate, we can do it. So my question for you tonight, unfortunately, she forgot to give us the invoice, so we could have approved the dollar transfer. We would have transferred money, she already paid it, I think, into her account. But we'll do that in January. But my question is, how do people feel about that? If we need a legal opinion, we ought to pay for it. That's my,
Yes.
okay? All right, so I do want you to know how much it is. We're not gonna approve it until you see
Yeah.
the dollars, but she forgot to get it done and she couldn't, and the assistant treasurer was out today, so they couldn't get the document, unfortunately.
So I don't think that it needs to go through a supplemental appropriation once the committee approves the.
It's an intra-department transfer, the council has to approve it. Because it's going from us to the mayor. We're sending money from this department to the mayor's office.
Also, they can.
Unless they haven't paid for it yet, I don't know.
But the auditors can also just, they can reclassify, so rather than moving the money, they can just.
Oh.
Where it was paid out of. So they can.
All right,
they
then
can
I just have to,
reclassify.
we just have to inform the council that that's being done.
So, right, so I mean, that, I don't know where,
Well, the committee needs to see the dollars before we finalize it. So if that's the case, then the council doesn't have to do anything. If you're right, that's great.
because if it's being paid out of the administrative lines that have already been approved, that's on their own.
But you'll see the bill. I don't want you to say yes to the
How
blank
much is sitting in
check.
the administrative?
Budget? Do we need to transfer money in there for these things? I didn't think so.
I don't have that also.
Okay, that's fine.
If it's not included in the project list.
Okay.
But I think it was about $5,000 for a combination of CPA coalition, the state coalition dues, and some money for trainings and travel. People haven't been taking advantage of, but there were housing conferences or historic preservation conferences that CPA members wanted to go to. And pay for those conference fees and travel.
So next month, let's bring the budget with us as part of the document so we can make sure that everybody sees where we're taking it from, and if we have to move money around, we'll do that. As I recall, I haven't had a legal opinion in the years that I've been on here. That was the first one, so let's hope we don't have to too many times. Okay, the next item is the rules we want to change for the upcoming new term. And I have to say that this is, Jamie and I and Jeff Bagg met to discuss all of the procedures. And one of the things we've been getting away from was that in the past, the committee had done a process in which they would only approve things once a quarter. They would accumulate all the applications, I understand, and you would approve them quarterly. We've been getting away from that. I think one of the basis for that, as I recall, was if we get a lot of big ticket items, we want to see if we have to prioritize.
That's all, you know, usually my.
Well, we haven't been doing that. And the other problem, which is my fault, in that I always like on the finance committee and on the council, I don't like how slow government can be when operationally dollars need to be gone through a supplemental appropriation to pay bills, to do the work of the city. I don't tend to hold things in committee very long, but that's on the city side. My mistake is thinking that we have to push these things through as quickly in the CPA. Most of the time, there's not an urgency. A couple of things have come up. One is we have established, which is new, a letter of agreement. It's like a contract between us and the applicant, where we, like in the pickleball courts, for instance, we said, make sure you spend the match money first before you spend CPA money. That's in the agreement. When we do that, and when we vote for something on one meeting, we don't get to see that finished agreement because we make that decision at night. That's an example. And Scott that night wanted to get more information from John Mason, and he wasn't here for soccer. And I was trying to please Joe McCoy, who's a friend of mine. He's on the city council, and it's his pickleball. Frankly, I should have waited on that. There was no reason for it. We had to wait for it anyway because Joe wasn't available for it. City council. We pushed it. There was no reason. Sometimes there's a sense in mind, why don't we get things done so the construction can happen at the proper time before it gets too cold or something like that. But I'm gonna, as Jamie and I discussed this, it's better for her and it's better for us to have 2 meetings for most applications so that we can review what we decided, so that the applicant can sign the agreement right there. And unless an applicant says, this is urgent, the netting to me looked urgent, although that took a while anyway, we had to get an opinion. Those are the kinds of things. Also, if it's a small dollar amount, like Jeff needed money to pay some closing costs, it's a very small dollar amount, we decided to move that. Those can be moved. But if you look at the rules, that's the basis for some of these changes, what I just said. And I want to be a better chair and follow these more closely. I certainly want your opinion on them. So let's go through them.
Where are we starting? Which one? The rules?
The rules first, and then the application is based on the rules. We change the conduct of meetings because sometimes I've been able to move agenda items around depending on who shows up. I don't want to keep people waiting if they don't have to. If one applicant is late, for instance, to the meeting. So that was me. I decided that section 4, I think a chairperson should have the ability to move an agenda item around.
That makes sense.
Makes sense? The big ticket item is section 7. I think the word funding cycles should be eliminated, by the way, if we're going to move to change this. It's just applications, right? Because we don't have a funding cycle now. We're eliminating the funding cycles. We're making sure that an applicant has given Jamie enough time to review the application, so we said 2 weeks. This is Jamie's request. I agree with that. We said that they would be, so the applicants know, it's going to be 2 meetings that we usually discuss things.
It's usually we need some information back that they don't present.
Yeah, and I've been pushing it too fast. So that's what that's all. The committee shall also have the option to exercise flexibility and speed up the process. So here's a big one. Funding requests under, and I had started at $100,000, but now I'm down to $50,000. If they're under 50, like let's use Jeff Banks' $2,800 item, the committee may vote on the funding at the first meeting, which we've been doing on occasion, but only if it's under a certain amount, and we have to decide what that amount is, and only if nobody objects to it. I'm going to give you, look, I really want to think about this, so you can do that.
Okay.
So that's what I suggested. So the dollar amount is, I mean, every dollar is tax dollars, but I, for one, wouldn't need to hold up. I was using that. He had two projects there that were pretty good. They had the housing authority. We pushed those two in one meeting because he gave us all the information. There was no real letter of agreement needed because we weren't going to do any special contract language. It was just boilerplate. And Jamie, chime in if you want, but I think those.
Can I just jump in for a second? So it sounds to me that it's not necessarily the voting of the funding request, it's the agreement, it's the paperwork associated with it.
Mhm.
So I think to me that was confusing because when I was looking at this, I mean, I'm thinking, okay, any board that's reviewing applications, if an application's not complete, no matter what the dollar amount is, they should come back,
Yes.
right? I mean, that seems like a standard. So it's not necessarily the voting of it, it's the paperwork associated with it. So you wouldn't need a grant agreement and you wouldn't need all the paperwork if it was just a minor $28 request. Is that what I'm hearing? I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
I'm saying that if it's a minor agreement and the application is in properly, move forward.
Complete.
In fact, Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we discuss if they don't have all the application materials, you're not even going to bring it here? Am I right on that? We discussed that. In a general sense, if an applicant didn't bring in the budget they were requesting and all of the
And
information
that
we.
should probably be in here somewhere.
I
I
think
would
it
say
is,
that
isn't
about, well, I think it talks about her reviewing it and it says once, I'm looking at the application.
Okay, yeah, that's where it should be, you're right. We
that-
talked about that, and I
That
think
it's
that was
for
Jamie's
preliminary review and completeness.
discretion we were leaving it with.
Right.
Now, if you wanted it documented, I don't know, what do you want?
I mean, so I've always felt that, I try to work with applicants and try to get them to have an application that is complete enough for the committee to look at. But there's often I receive applications that I don't think are, great, but I send them along to the committee because that's your decision whether or not you want to review it or look at it, so.
But you do filter them if they're not appropriate for CPA funding.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't meet the
requirements.
requirements, if they're not eligible to be funded, I'm not as one, but if it's,
If it's borderline, you let us decide.
yeah.
I remember we had something about the Majestic Theater's tin roof, and we
Exactly.
decided that wasn't
Right, because
borderline, but you let it go through for us to decide.
right, and eventually that was, and similarly, with the Northampton, the old courthouse, I mean, which wasn't, it wasn't eligible application committees. But I think as far as the CPA law goes, the only thing that this committee needs is a budget, a dollar amount. So everything else that we require is required by this committee, or by the state law, or by.
Yeah, but we have the discretion to require that. The
Right.
stuff we have in our application, all these things that we're gonna ask for.
So for instance, you look at the application, one of the things that often doesn't show up great is community support. So often, some applicants put in a lot of effort to show the community support, they get letters of support, they've seen petitions, other times we just say, well, they point to, this was in the open space plan, and that was a publicly vetted project, so I'm not gonna say, well, this needs a letter of support from the mayor, or, 20 residents in order to get to the CPA, so that's obviously the board's decisions as to whether or not that has the support of the community, and that's a project fund.
I think when we get to the application, we should decide how strict we want to be in those regards and let Jamie make that decision when she gets the application. I'm not sure we need to codify unless we want to say, where does it say, review it?
Yes, it's-
Member of the CPA administrative staff and chairperson before being sent, they're reviewed. So, it's already in here, they're reviewed for completeness.
Right, but it doesn't, I mean, if we don't reject an application, I mean, there's never been an application that hasn't been submitted and it meets the eligibility. You know, I'll send it to
Yeah,
you,
and
if I have
if
a
it's
question,
not-
I'll send it to you, and I have a lot of questions about it, and looking at them to come back, but generally it's been
Well,
just.
we could leave it to Jamie and I to decide, do we need more information? And then, when you get the application, but the one thing I won't let it go through is no doubt a budget, they have to have a budget. But if you want more information, when you get it, we're gonna have that second meeting anyway. And they're gonna get the information, or we'll have a third meeting until they get it. But in this case, if the more information they give, which is optional information, the better their chances are, which is second.
Right, so, I mean, it's sort of like when you look at the permitting boards, sometimes you get, you know, or any board, sometimes you get applications that are done by professionals
And
and really complete and tick every single checkbox, and sometimes you get the,
And that's why I'm struggling with the dollar amount piece of it.
Yeah.
Because to me, if it's a viable project with a good application, with everything very clear, you know, just because it's over a certain dollar amount, does it make sense to hold it back? Versus an application that's kind of shoddily put together and maybe isn't as big of a request, and does that get pushed through quicker because it's a lower dollar amount? That's just the piece I'm kind of struggling with, is, you know, why the dollar amount? I guess is there a history behind, besides the closing thing, it sounds like this is the thing that might be.
I wanted
spurred
to have
this a
some
little
cutoff. I did want to be able to do something that was really straightforward, like closing,
Right.
to be able to do that, not to have a rule against that flexibility. But by having that statement in there, we also have the ability to say, wait a minute, we need more information, even for those small things. We're never denied that ability in these rules. But it gives us an opportunity to do that. And the dollar amount, the reason I put the dollar amount in is if we say, let's say we said $50,000, that's a lot of money. And usually when we're up at that level, there is contractual agreements we may ask for, like the pickleball was $80,000. You must agree to do this. The other thing that really made impact on me is Scott asked about a recreation question and John Mason wasn't here. If the applicant who's in charge, and it's in here in the language, isn't here, first of all, I don't even know if we should consider it. Because that's important to me, so that we can ask questions. And I'm not blaming John for that because he didn't know that. We didn't make that. But that's the decision that Jamie can, whoever's applying, you have to have whoever's in charge of your department be here. Because we only meet once a month. If they want to get it done, they ought to be here to sell it. But the dollar amount to me was because I wanted to make sure that we had a cutoff that we almost all must set. Now, these are rules. And I just had this conversation with the full council last night. Rules made by a committee with a majority of 5 can be changed. Let's suspend the rules and do this. And all you have to do is vote to, we're going to do this $52,000 thing because we think it's fine, we can do it. All you have to do is vote to do it, and you're suspending your rules.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well,
or we can say, let's suspend the rules, vote on that, and then do that again. Well, that's ridiculous. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. So, because the rules are not mandated by state law, we can do anything we want at any meeting, but this is a guideline. That's what our rules on the council are.
That
They're a
makes me feel a little
guideline.
bit better that there's that ability to have that.
Right, but what Jamie pointed out, and this is important, is applicants need to know what they have to do.
Absolutely.
And if it's under, I want to say 50, but we could say anything, maybe 25. If it's under 25,000, she can say, it may get done in one night if you have all the application materials
You've
done.
got to solve it.
And I'm ready to say 25 on that, and I just want to hear your thoughts on it.
I just want to clarify that the goal here then is to minimize the time we spend at the table with incomplete or insufficient applications so that hopefully that's better prepared when it gets to this point, right?
Well, when we get to the application procedure, we can decide which ones are prioritized and which ones are optional. But yes, But the other goal is to slow the process down. I was pushing it because of my work on the city council. I realized that. Also, letters of agreement, I pushed for that. I wanted us to, we want you to do some signage. We want you to do, make sure you spend this money first. Whatever we put down, there's a boilerplate letter of agreement. I don't know, you were here when we did that.
I do, but I might need a refresher on the difference between a grant agreement and a project funding agreement. Because they're
Both the same thing.
They're not. So the grant agreement is a formal contract, like either 10-page contract with outlining all of the terms of the CPA law, like it's been through legal counsel on the city side. It's a contractual document.
Is that done by the treasurer's office?
It was done many years ago. And the reason for that was specifically for outside agencies, not within the city.
Oh, outside agencies need to see that
And so, but the project funding, or the project funding agreement was a much smaller version of that just sort of said what the scope is.
And that's
that
that's something we generate.
They're both, yeah, and they so for, let's say, Parks and Rec, we don't need to have a formal grant contract with them. We can have this simple one-page document that just quickly outlines what the scope is, where the funding is, how much they were matching, and if there was a sign or things like that. But the larger contract has things about, clawback provisions and it's just much more detailed.
Okay. But the project funding agreement is something we push for, which is something that every agreement people sign. And usually what it means is I have to sign it as chair, and project, whoever's an applicant has to sign it. In the case of the 3 things that we just did for the planning department, Jeff signed them, I signed them. But the purpose of slowing the process down is so you guys can read this. Oh, didn't we say, and it helps us all remember, oh, we did say we wanted this in there. We want to make sure that those are okay. So I view this as probably a chance to get some things done quickly, but really slowing it down. We may not do things all in one night. I think you guys need to get something absorbed. If we met more than once a month, yeah, but I don't think that's necessary. As you can see, we haven't met a number of times because there wasn't any applications.
So, quick question then, is there any, if we were to average the things that we wanted to fast track, is there some median, or is it really just an arbitrary?
It's an arbitrary figure on my part, the lower amount.
And since we can bump it, it really,
We could change it anytime because there are rules. This is just something really for us as a guide, but more so for the people on the outside. And the other thing that's in here is I always thought if there's an urgency to something, I was pushing things too fast, but if there is an urgency to something, hey, if we don't get the netting on there, we have to close City Hall. Let's get this done. Well, there's 2 sides to that. One is, well, why didn't you come to us faster? And the other side is, we can only work as fast as we can. So if there is an urgency and it's a $20,000 thing, our rules don't prevent us from doing it, and our rules guide us. So one of the members can say, okay, yeah, we're allowing this, and it's urgent. But they have to say this is urgent to Jamie. We need to get this done. This just, and it could be very instant. They might recognize it, and they need money, and this is and this money's eligible, which we had to find out with the attorney. So 25,000. Everybody okay with that? What do you think, James? 25, okay.
We can change it.
Yeah.
Change it, so throw it
I guess I kind of, so I got some, Greg and Dan and I were having some email conversation about this. It's not an open meeting law violation because it was just 2 members of the committee. And he was.
through. Gary's taking notes.
Yeah. And he was, Greg
Everyone's
was
possible
saying
for
that, he was sort of he was in favor of not having a specific dollar amount, just to keep it simple on future committees and that we don't have to keep going back to figure out what was that threshold, you know, and okay, now we have to suspend the rules. So, and I'm hearing that Jessica has similar thoughts on that. I guess my thinking is that if there was, the rules were clear, that the project can be, it's, you know, 2 meetings, but then it can be sped up if necessary or as relevant. And then maybe that just gets us back to where we were before, where there's less predictability.
Well, the flexibility allows us to, I don't have a problem with changing it at the spot. I mean, the 25,000 is a guide, we can make it anything, but I guess I was trying to make sure that we knew that we always should do 2 meetings unless it's something, it's simple, it's a simple thing.
Or emergency.
But we can rewrite this to do that without a dollar amount in there,
I was gonna ask real quick if there's any effect it might have on the applicants, what dollar amount we set. So in other words,
well, that's a good point, John. What do you think, Jamie?
Like, if
I
they-
don't
if-
understand.
If they think they can get fast tracked by saying, we're gonna ask for $24,000.
Right.
Or if we put in 26, we're gonna be stuck with 2 meetings.
I
see
just
where you're
think,
coming from.
my history on the CPA, they're looking for money specific to the project. That I just don't see that happening because the project is, and they're not going to get fast tracked if we don't want it to be fast tracked. Nothing in here says that we can't, and it says here one person wants to stop. We could put, how do we say it then?
it seems like maybe it's not about the dollar amount then.
That's-
Yeah, this is easy. Instead of saying funding request under $1, the committee may vote on a funding request, forget the under $, at the first meeting is introduced if all members present at the meeting agree with additional meetings are not necessary. Period.
Period.
We don't
Leave
put
it at that.
anything in there.
And leave it at
So that line says, just to repeat, the committee may vote on a funding request at the first meeting it is introduced if all members present at the meeting agree that additional meetings are necessary.
I like that.
So we need to do something about the next paragraph then, because I had funding request exceeding that.
So it's the precinct paragraph says grant funding applications are typically discussed over the course of 2 meetings.
Mm-hmm.
The committee may take as long as necessary. So does that cover what's in the final paragraph there?
Yeah, we may not even need it. So let's cut that whole thing. If we're not gonna have a dollar amount border of any kind, we don't need it.
Right.
Because we are telling them it's 2 meetings. This generally takes the funding cycle out of it and it's 2 meetings. And it gives us a flexibility at any time. I mean, that $80,000 request, we might have decided, okay, we can do this. But I'm thinking right now that I would rather give Jamie and I more time to get things together.
So would you want to see if the committee shall have the option to exercise flexibility and speed up the process for unforeseen time-sensitive situations?
Where is that language? I'm sorry.
It's in that 3rd paragraph. It's the
We
last.
should keep that.
And so it's only if everyone agrees to move it forward.
Well, that also is if they've said that. Okay, let's do that. Let's keep that language, okay, Jamie? All right, next page. Hearing guidelines. I was struggling with the word contact person, but whoever is the applicant's chief person has to be here.
Sorry, but just have the question that, are there occasions where someone sends a representative, like I'm thinking of Marty or somebody that might not actually be the applicant head, but is there to answer
The
questions?
person fills up that application, is not the person.
That's exactly what John Mason did with Joe McCoy and all the pickleball people. But a question came up about, John, why are we using this space here? And John, what are the soccer people saying? He couldn't answer because he wasn't here. So I said,
guess
wait a minute.
what I'm getting at is just in terms of specific language, do we want to avoid saying then the applicant or applicee or however that's phrased, and more about
The person with the best knowledge of the project should be here.
something along those lines?
Well, bottom line is if they don't have the answer, then it gets continued for another
Right,
meeting. I
right.
mean, that's really what should happen,
Right.
you know? Well, then come back next meeting bring the right.
Well, I was getting pretty
direction,
strict, if the
right
contact
information.
person isn't present, so we don't need that language as much as we have the ability to say.
Right.
But I wanted to make it clear to the, again, to the applicants, look, you should be here.
So maybe the way to put it is along the lines of, questions need to be answered, so applicants should be aware that if there isn't someone present to answer those questions, likely won't be.
What if we refer to it as the property owner? Because if it's, if it's park and rec land and there's a question about it, about parks, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to think of somebody who's got knowledge of the actual,
It's not always property.
Yeah, that's the thing. What's the most generic term for whoever it is?
Probably said contact.
So-
person.
Maybe it's contact.
the project contact.
Who works?
Right.
Works for them, right?
Previously, we had not had, like, on the application form, it's just who's the contact form. And so, for our other permitting boards, we have a authorization form to represent. And so I've included in the application, authorization to represent the applicant. So
There you
maybe
go.
that would,
I would have leave that.
so, and based on
She's thinking.
based on what it says is that so let's say use the example of Parks and Recs, would be, John Mason authorizes Andy Hunter to be the contact and that is signing that any conditions or funding limitations that you agree to are then binding on Parks and Rec as the contact person.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And then if a question comes up that contact person can't answer, then you could, they can come back or they can bring more.
I think
That's just always going to be the case.
Right.
If we have questions that need answered, we're going to bump.
I keep getting back to myself here. This is training myself not to rush things. So there's going to be a second meeting if there's any questions.
Mhm.
And I'm the one who has to make sure that I'm aware that that's what this committee needs and wants. But we want to make it aware to the applicant. If you want to get this done in 2 meetings, you should come fully prepared for the first meeting.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't, in the second meeting, we'll probably have more meetings. And we're talking meetings once a month.
Right.
And then it has to go through council,
That's
which is another month at least.
So it behooves them to be prepared.
Yes. So someplace in the applicant, well, Jamie will say that, it behooves you to be prepared.
Yeah, but it's not just on you, we're here too. If you're trying to fast track something and we don't agree, it's up to us to open our mouth.
Well, now you have that. It says it right here.
But we've always had it. I guess you're trying to document it, but we've always had the ability to say, Dan, I mean, you always give us the opportunity to say, you guys all good with it? Either we say yes or we say no.
That's
It's
true.
not all on you, kid.
I understand. I do push, and you guys
I appreciate you
listen.
taking the bullet, but it's not all on you, you know?
Thanks, Andy. I like him. We'll keep it. Make sure the park and rec assigns you the CPA.
I don't think I got a sign, I think I got volunteer.
You got volunteer.
That's a long time to be volunteered.
All right, so where are we on this contact person stuff? Do we want to take out that thing, if the contact person or his authorized representative is not present at the meeting?
Yeah, because the one example that sticks in my head, maybe I shouldn't even be bringing this up, but was the schools and football fields and all of that.
Oh, that's a sore spot.
I know
but
it is.
I agree with you.
But that to me was the one instance that really stuck in my head where it was, a volunteer organization applying for money, the schools were sort of involved, it's their land, their property. And here
Well,
we are.
that's why I
And here
put
we are.
in here, department head. If schools want something, I want Allison here.
Right. So that's why, I think the authorized signature is a great solution, but that's the one that just sticks in my head.
Absolutely.
In this authorization application, the person who's authorizing it, let's say it was the schools, they have to, in that case, that authorization, that almost has to be someone in the school department. Like in the case of the Maple School playground, she could have signed off that the Maple School principal is my authorized.
Right, but so the original application for that playground was submitted by a parent. And we got an email from the superintendent saying, yep, it's okay, they're gonna be the
No,
contact.
that has to change.
It has to be a signature now.
So that's why this,
But the thing is, I don't think I want a parent or football organization doing it. I want the people this is taxpayer money, so we want the department heads involved.
Right.
Now, we do have volunteer organizations that get money like Wisconsin Trust.
Mhm.
So, it's not like it's.
And they'll have a grant agreement, because they're an outside organization. This is
Internal organizations in the
internal
city. ought to have it.
organization, which would have,
Mhm. Well,
I don't
we're
know
also
where it fits
giving
with that, I
Jamie
don't know.
instruction,
Yeah.
if someone comes to you like a parent, he says, no, you gotta get the,
Right, so now if there's but you can still, if the superintendent authorizes that parent to be the official contact of the schools,
It's gonna take longer if
then
we have.
is that,
then
then
it
is
might take longer if we have questions.
well, what I'm saying is, if you call me and say, Allison's saying she wants the parent, I'm gonna say, no, I want Allison here. I may just say, look, Allison, this is gonna take.
So you want them-
But she also had the principal of Maple School. Now, I felt that was okay, because
Right.
that's a government employee
Sure,
here.
yeah.
So that would be my thinking, and I would instruct, I would give you the advice that if someone came to you like that, and it was a parent, get Allison to be the person here, or someone else in that example.
or we had, the Center of Heaven School, they came forward with their request, and it was, I believe it was a teacher in the school who was the applicant. So,
See, to me, I want that. I don't want the superintendent involved in that. It could be the assistant superintendent. Principal's okay, because the principal's conduct,
They're responsible in general.
there's a certain authority here. There's a lot of money involved here. Even if it's $1, it's taxpayer money. Anyway, so I want to say, if the contact person or authorized representative
Yep.
is the new language right there in the second paragraph. Everything else okay? The line, all right, section 9, the funding agreement, is that the right term? Project funding agreement, is that what I should have said there, in the bottom line of the agreement?
yeah, so maybe we have to.
We just want to make sure, we codified that, you and I, so that there would be, always be a funding agreement, or so they would know that there's a funding agreement involved.
I mean, so I think where we've done both funding agreement and the grant agreement, we've done, in the funding agreement, there was a line that says, additionally, you have to do the full.
If it's necessary, it's not always necessary.
So if we've done it with Pascoma Conservation Trust when they did the Brickell Brook.
But that's because they're getting grants from outside sources. Right?
No, it's because they're not part of the city.
Oh, okay.
So that's why they had to do the grant agreement. And I believe that it was in the funding agreement that they had to sign the grant agreement.
Okay, so, but this
But
funding
that's
agreement.
also, it's also something that's going, you know, what the auditors want, they want a formal anyone who's getting city money needs a formal contract.
That's more
So-
formal than our little thing is just for pretty much internally for us. But all I want to do is say down here, prepare a project funding agreement. Is that okay? So the word project is added because that's what's, it's called. Funding limitations and conditions, we struck all those. Because the law already directs those. And we just simply said, may only be used in accordance with MGL Chapter 44B. And Jamie's our filter on that. But as she's indicated, if an application is borderline, we make that final decision.
You can only get applicants to do so much.
Well, they can try, they should try. I mean, it's okay to try. And I don't think Jamie should feel pressured to either deny someone. That shouldn't be your role. You should send it in. If you think it has a slight chance to happen, that's gotta be our choice.
Right.
Okay.
Like I said, I've never stopped an application.
Well, I wouldn't want
I've discouraged people.
You want to replace the windows in your house because it's a historic home? Application,
So,
and this is Jamie doing most of
before we
this.
go, do we want to, I'll make these changes and bring it back for the January meeting? Or,
Well, I would rather have them in place so that if an applicant came in, they had the idea.
You can vote it in as.
Why don't we just vote it right now?
and as amended, and
As
then,
amended.
and then I'll send out the final version. And then if
And
there's
send
any,
them-
if there's any comments or things didn't show up the way people
As I
thought they
said,
would.
we could always amend our own rules anytime.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll take a motion to approve the rules as amended.
So move.
Second. All in favor?
Can I talk about something really quick?
Further discussion?
Go for it, Harry.
I'm looking at this section number 7 here. I'm trying to figure out why we have to have 100% voting in order to vote something in. Why do we have to
does it
have
say
a
that?
majority?
It says
Did I miss
all
that?
members.
Yeah, it says all members present at the meeting agree that it's necessary to do so. And it says if any member present objects. So if one person objects, then it has to go to a following meeting. Why do we have to have that? Then why don't we just have a majority?
Well, because here's the thing. This is a case, Harry, of pushing something through on one meeting.
No, I understand that, but why do we have to have one person out of, say, 8 or 9?
Because I think it's like, we have this rule in the charter even, that the counselor can object and if someone agrees, they have to put up voting on a major measure that might be before us.
All right. I mean,
This is the case, this is the case, no, I'm just saying, I'm explaining it to you. I'm using Scott's as an example because I felt I pushed it, he wanted questions answered, and there was nobody here that could answer them. I think in the case, Scott could have said, can we wait one more meeting, and I would have been obliged to agree because of the rules that says it does. And this is only in the case of trying to push, just so you know, Harry, a member can't prevent a full vote on the second meeting, only the first meeting if we want to have a vote to approve it.
So it
At
has to,
one meeting, Harry. But the second meeting, it has nothing to do with that sentence.
That's not a majority of rules.
Yeah. After
so
one,
the first one, it has to be.
if we want to get it
unanimous
done
vote.
in one meeting and
Okay.
somebody is feeling uncomfortable, they have the right to say, can we do 2 meetings?
Okay,
There's no vote on it, that's their right.
okay.
That gives a member some authority to, not feel
To say I
bad.
want to read it and sleep
I
on
want to
it.
have more information. And that's only in the
Just
case
when
of,
I compare this to what I normally go through with the planning board, that just wouldn't fly.
well, hopefully,
Well,
I don't know, the planning board is a totally different object here, I'm not gonna talk about it. Anyway, we have a motion on the floor, all in favor? Aye.
that's just a law.
Harry, did you vote aye?
Mike.
Okay, good. Applications. Jamie redid these based on our discussions and the rules. The main thing I want to discuss is what are the priorities in our application for it to even be considered, and what we might call additional information that might be optional or at least required.
So that's, under application submittal and review schedule, that last sentence, I think I had to read it a couple times to understand it, so I think if you just added preliminary review for eligibility and completeness by the planning department, because at first when I read it, I thought it was the committee.
Where does it say that?
Application submittal and review schedule, the first paragraph, last sentence, says, once submitted, the applications are preliminary reviewed for eligibility and completeness before being sent to the full committee for their and is it a public hearing? Officially a public hearing?
We're always empty.
It's not officially a public hearing, because
It'll be a public hearing at the council.
Right, well, that's why I think I got a little bit
Alright.
twisted in my head because I was,
Then why don't we change that?
it just needs to be, I think,
so
eligibility and completeness by the planning department before being sent to the full.
Well, it's not the planning board, Jeff doesn't do that, you do it.
yeah.
By
And
the
it-
administrator,
By the CPA administrator?
by the CPA
Okay.
administrator. Eligible completeness by the CPA administrator
Yeah, before being sent to the full.
before being sent to vote.
For the,
For review, I wouldn't use the word public hearing there because public hearing,
for their
Legal
public
notice and all that stuff.
Yeah, for their review.
Thank you.
We cut off the cycles. We put down something.
So there was a comment from Greg also about that. He was suggesting to increase the predictability for applicants, that what the standard timeline is for the city council process.
What we're talking.
So I made a note from that, so after it says the city council must also vote to approve that appropriation, adding the city council process typically takes 3 to 6 weeks. And once the city council receives the funding recommendation, it's sent to the finance subcommittee for discussion and a vote, or it's sent back to the full council for a final public hearing and vote.
So you want to explain the entire council process?
Just like in one sentence, just to say that it takes 3 to 6 weeks. It's going to go through a bunch of different committees.
I think that makes sense. I think
Any information we can give them, good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. General criteria, well, I'm going all the way to criteria for grant approval. Well, the criteria isn't, it's a guideline, it's not necessarily required of the applicant. That's on the application form, am I correct on that, Jamie?
Yes, the criteria for grant approval is something that comes out of the community preservation fund that the committee's done over a number of years. And, these were things that the committee has said would be important on reviewing an application. I don't know if the committee's ever actually looked at these while looking at an application at the same time to see if it meets all those, checks all those boxes, but that is, it's in here for applicants to understand what the committee could be looking at.
Right. So it's not restricting us, it's just to help the applicant.
It's to help the applicant, it also helps you.
Right.
If you have to point out, well, where does it, see where it says this, you talk to the applicant, you're having discussion based on these criteria, that's good. My main concern was more so, on these allowable spending purposes you have on chart 1, is this something you got, I've never looked at this, from the law, does Stewart give you?
Eligible uses?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are direct from the CPA, and again, it's for, it was what was in the rules, but we struck that as the rules because it's just referencing from the law, but in the application, it makes sense for it to be there for
All
applicants
I'm
to just
getting is,
know, oh,
Is
I
this,
can't do an
is this
artificial
chart actually from the law, or did you make this up?
This chart. I'm sorry, I thought you were on
The
the,
source is the Department of Revenue.
this is the, yeah, DOR.
Oh,
So this
in
is,
other words, Dan, read.
I didn't see that.
You were thinking. Well, it's at the bottom of the page. It's like fine print.
Listen, you're the one who wanted this wise ass on the committee. You signed up for it.
Actually, it was Harry. Harry said, "Gotta get Jessica." All right. I think it's good. I mean, all I'm saying is those allowable spending purposes, of course, we can always look at an application and say, all right, it's a little iffy, is the netting okay, you know, and then we get an opinion. And, okay, let's go to the application. I think the statement on the contact person is still good, where you highlighted it.
right, so the highlighting in yellow is new.
You're gonna keep that in so that people see that? The highlighting, is it just for our purposes?
No, the highlighting is new text, that's changes.
Change
Additional,
text.
new text from the
Added
old
text.
application.
Okay.
And red is being struck out.
I think that's fine, it matches our rules.
So I'm just realizing, Jamie, the digital one doesn't show the markup, does it?
This,
Yeah, I don't have to mark that one.
you gotta run it under Word. So if you have an Apple, that's why it's not working.
Are you, which one are you looking at?
I think
She's looking at it, but unfortunately, it's not coming up because it's not. That's because you're not in Word.
Microsoft.
You have to be in
No,
Microsoft
I
Word.
think you're using, I think you're looking at the wrong one, Sam. I'm looking at the wrong one. Go back to the, yeah, so
CPA
about your
application.
Take care of that.
No, it's application.
Take care of that.
Yeah,
not under, go back to the,
yes.
that's that one.
Oh, okay, I see.
And that's a Word document.
Yeah,
And there you go. Thank God Jamie keeps John in check. All right. So, I was wondering,
Tech support for the tech support.
when you say relevant as opposed to necessary, can we decide what's necessary and what's relevant? I mean, doesn't that give the applicant a little bit too much leeway?
As needed?
Well, it was, the include supporting materials was as relevant. So like, if it's a,
I mean, it's relevant to the project.
yeah, so like, if it was a, I don't know, a housing rehab project, we might not care about seeing photos. If it's a general, if it's a project that we don't have the specific locations yet, but if it's a, Old Town Hall, we're gonna wanna see the photos. So,
I just don't, I think the word relevant is too flexible.
now just include supporting materials.
Yes, period. Because I want a budget or I'm not even gonna think about it. That's just me. I mean, we're talking about funding here.
Well, it does ask for a full budget.
I know, but I don't want it to get to this meeting. Because sometimes we have 5 or 6 applications in which we're debating something and we don't have a budget, we don't have information. Right. And I think Jamie needs to hear that if and she knows this, if the applicant comes to her, here's my application, she can say, you don't have a budget. I can't send it to the committee without a budget. So here's the thing, do we give Jamie the authority to say, you haven't given me a timeline, you haven't given me a budget, I cannot send this to the committee? Do we want to put that pressure on you?
I don't want that pressure.
All right, then how do we do this?
Well, I mean,
Because we only meet once a month, that's
I
all.
think Jamie's going to advise the applicant and say, this is what the committee's expecting.
Mhm.
If you don't provide a full application, it may take longer, and it's going to be a 3-month process as it is anyway, and you may end up making it a 6-month process. But really, the burden is on the applicant to do the work. It's not on Jamie to do the work. If they don't want to create a timeline and then they want to go through 3 meetings because they haven't done a timeline, that's their problem. Right?
All right, so,
Yeah, and personally, probably by the second time they come forward, if they still don't know what they're doing, we're gonna say, don't come back to you.
Right.
So you figured it out.
Till you got it right. I mean, why waste our time?
this is an aside, the mayor gave me the treasurer, Deb, something is on the school building authority, and the city came looking for funding for schools. Where's your mayor? Where's your application? And we're talking millions of dollars here. Don't come back until you get it. I like that, the treasurer, when she says stuff like that. So I love it. Andy, when the applicant doesn't come with the right materials, you're gonna be our spokesperson.
No worries, brother, I'm good with that.
I'll be right behind you.
Kindred spirits over here.
But, all right, let's not do relevant, let's just make sure, and Jamie will say, look, if you don't have your goals, you don't have your timeline, I can put this in, but they're just gonna send you back to the drawing board.
Exactly.
So that's what you tell me.
That's exactly,
Yeah.
yep.
And that's, I mean, the other thing is like, when there have been really questionable applications, I have sent them to you and you've been like, you know, or send it along or not, so.
Which one would we denied one? Somebody wanted to, I think it was a Majestic, they wanted to do something, we kept
What
having.
the sprinklers in there, you know, what was
No, and it wasn't a historic building, and
Well, that's,
Well,
that's
but
the,
it was both privately
privately owned?
owned, internal, and not part of the original structure that was.
And I like the notion that CPA is a community project, authority, and we have to have something that actually benefits the community. How does sprinklers benefit the community?
Depends the fire from happening, I guess.
Well,
It keeps the fire
but
department.
that's the fire department's job. So the second page, provide a narrative. I like what you've done there, Jamie. Yeah, you cut out the and or. One digital version and 2 original hard copies. That shouldn't be hard. Most applicants have that capability. What do you think?
I'd be real surprised if anybody's typing out an application these days with longhand.
But if they do the application, like, is this application here, it's available to them to type up themselves?
Yeah, well, what's often looked at is, with the and or on the submission requirements, I was getting sometimes people come in with 10 sets of an application, no digital version, and it's not collated. And I'm like, I'm not gonna, you have to collate it, you have to put it together. And then there's, everyone now wants the application, everyone on the committee is digital, so now I'm wasting everyone's applicant's time and effort to hard copies when all but 3 people on the committee are fine with digital. So the thought being that I can make digital, if everyone has to have a digital copy and they're providing a file copy and.
Well, digital copy makes it easy to file too.
Right, so.
But this application, if you sent this to them, is it a Word document that I
No,
can
it's
type in?
PDF, yeah, it's forms and they can just fill it out.
They have to write Adobe product, don't they, to fill out
The free one is just forms.
those? Oh, I know.
If they want to handwrite it.
I mean, we get handwritten.
Well, handwritten ones are fine as long as they can be scanned. And you provide that? You don't provide scanning for them, do you?
They should do that, they should see
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm it was frustrating because they were choosing, I'll send you one digital copy and then I'm printing out, I have to print out larger things or maybe 10 hard copies and no digital. So for me, it's easier to require one digital copy and one hard copy. Or 2 hard copies
Where does it say any of this?
on the next page.
Hey, yeah,
Oh,
just
okay.
turn it over.
Touche.
Takes a while,
Gotta break it.
Yeah, break her in.
So,
Is 2 weeks enough
I
time?
just want you to know, Harry, the first time I met you, Jessica had nice things to say. I said, who's this Harry showing? And Jessica informed me that you're from.
I love Harry.
She's your biggest defender.
going back to the first page of the form, the
Wait a minute, are we done with the page 7? Everybody's okay with what Jamie's asking us to codify digital copy, hard copy?
Yeah.
Because you may get somebody might call you and say, why is Jamie making us do all this work?
no,
That's for a lot of money.
Yeah, kidding. Chop chop.
Free,
um,
last I checked. Free.
so I wanted to propose adding,
Where are we looking at?
so back to the first page of the form.
The form on the, this page right
Yeah, page 5.
Page 5 and 7?
So in addition to the CPA category, also adding checkboxes for CPA purpose, which would be the chart would be the acquire, create, preserve, support, rehab, and restore.
So if I put down open space,
Then you could select acquire, create, preserve, but if someone puts in an application of support, you look at the chart and go, no, support for open, you can't have a project submitted for open space with a support project.
I don't understand what that is.
So support provides grants, loans, rental assistance, security deposits, interest rate write-downs, other forms of assistance directly to individuals and families who are eligible for community housing or entities that
So-
operate and manage.
It's really defined for the community
I
housing.
think I get
Yeah.
that, yeah.
In
But also, I mean,
other words, you have to you need the CPA grant in order to get another grant.
No, so we've done this where like, we funded the housing production plan
Right.
through
So that's a
support
support
of
document.
affordable housing.
Got it, now I got
But
it.
we can't fund open space plan out of support for open space and recreation, because the CPA is not allowed by the state to fund support activities.
I'm just wondering if we're making it too complicated.
Well, it's just a checkbox.
I know, but they have to go with, just like we did, what is support?
So where is this new checkbox? It's not on.
It's not on here.
Okay, you're just talking about it, you're
Yeah.
thinking about it. Okay.
Leave the project fund in CPA category.
If it makes your life better, do it.
I think it'll just,
Yeah.
it could help, I don't think it'll hurt.
It makes people better prepared.
You could just even put something under the support box that just says available only for housing projects. And that way it's,
Is it a, is
Yes.
it limit to housing?
yes, only limited to the community housing.
But I mean, it's confusing, because like rehab and restoration is,
And we always
Yes,
have this
but-
debate on whether rehab and restoration is maintenance, which is what we had to have the city attorneys. Well, I go with Jay. Jay's right. If it makes your life easier, do
You
it.
always amend it later, right?
Huh?
You always amend it later.
Correct.
Well, what I really would like is these rules and these applications to go out to all players that have submitted stuff to us. John Mason, Allison, Jeff Bagg, anybody that has asked for, these are the new application, these are the new rules, we want you to be informed. So Jamie, I'd like you to do that. And I have no problem with this application. Do we want to move that it be approved?
I have one more discussion.
Oh, sorry.
Again, this comes from Greg. And he was questioning the whole footnote at the bottom there, private organizations may not pursue CPA funds for the purpose of improving city property. All CPA funds for projects on city property must be initiated by the city entity that owns the property.
Right, and he was worried about city space.
And he's worried about city space and Old Town Hall, as well as,
So why is that there? Is that something that's been there?
it's been there. I mean, so what it did say before was for recreation projects.
I think it doesn't need to be there. We have the ability to decide if a funding project is on.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to like inhibit city space now somehow, applying for funds.
Right, and so that was like, it's always been there, we've always kind of ignored it for city space or for, you know, like the pond committee came and just got, was funding for the
So we have
cementation.
private organizations. Scomic Trust is a private organization.
Right, but they own the land.
But I did the same thing. As soon as I saw it, I went right to like, wait, isn't that gonna screw up town hall?
And the
But they
pond-
have an agreement. it's almost like
They have a
court.
lease.
Right,
It's
they have
almost
a-
like a court, it's a 40.
All I'm saying is, why
Right,
do
but
we,
they're still
are
not
we
the property
trying
owner,
to?
And so then like, in order to, if you're the property owner or you have a long-term lease, but we still funded the National Pond Committee for National Pond sanitation.
Take it out.
So, right, why is it in there?
All I'm saying is get rid of it because we still have the filter of ourselves. We say, wait a minute, you're a private organization with sprinklers in your building. Sorry. But that's a case where they made a good try.
It worked, it worked the way it was supposed to.
Hey,
So can I have a motion to approve the application as amended?
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
And Andy seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Barry?
Aye.
Okay, because I forgot to say any further discussion. All right, what else is on our agenda? Thank you, this was important.
I have a couple of just quick announcements.
Oh, we wanted to talk about the meeting schedule.
Yeah.
Right. And then I also had a couple of things on public speaking, so which I can go over first.
Go public speak, okay. Somebody asked you something that,
I just wanted to advise there's going to be two applications coming to committee in January. One's going to be coming from the Historical Commission. We just got notice yesterday that the preliminary, so the Historical Commission applied for a state grant to do an inventory of historic structures in the Main Street Extension area. The preliminary application was submitted to the Mass Historic Commission in mid-November. We just got notice yesterday that they accepted the preliminary application and we have to have a full application by February 10th. It's a 50-50 matching grant.
so that has an urgency to it.
Right, and so they're gonna come in for the January meeting and trying to,
So our rules go out the window for the first application we get.
no.
Because of
it's-
John.
Well, so the
Jam it through.
I believe that the funding has to be in place by the time the grant is awarded from the state, not upon application to.
Oh, that's better.
But I'm gonna double check to make sure. But regardless, it's also a reimbursement grant, so they're gonna be asking for the full amount, but then after the state reimburses, this CPA will get reimbursed for that. The other application may not come in, it's from the city clerk, to do an inventory of historic documents.
She's done that before.
Slight change, but that might also be here in January.
Well, I think they need to get the new application, so send one to John.
And final thought is that we talked about this, but elections for vice chair with,
I wanted to wait to make sure that you were all appointed back from your committees on January 16th. We have to, I don't mind continuing this. If you want me to do it, I'll do it, but also vice chair, because Ryan was the vice chair. I have been lucky enough, I'm retired now, so I have plenty of time on my hands, so I come to all the meetings. But just in case I don't, the vice chair would be good. But I also want to make sure you guys remember when you go to the historic commission, hey, you still want me to be the CPA representative? They should take an open meeting formal vote to send all of you to the committee, okay? So Andy, Harry, Jay, John, is there anybody else? Everybody else is a council or a mayoral appointment, correct? Scott's mayoral.
so I have notes, Jay, your conservation commission expires on the 31st.
The simple thing.
So you sent it back, so then you need to be reappointed.
Yeah.
They need to do it.
Similarly with John, Harry just got reappointed to the planning board, but his planning board appointment to the CPA doesn't end for another year.
Oh,
That's
so, okay.
2020. So I don't know how that works, where you just got your CPA term went beyond.
The planning board does their own thing. What about Andy?
And
He just got appointed back.
you
on
just
to-
got
Last night we appointed Andy.
so your term for CPA expires on the 2021.
You're not that lucky, sorry.
So how do you get to be on the CPA if you're not even on the Park and Rec Commission?
It's called, there was a glitch in me getting my application back to the park and rec.
All right, well, then we don't have to have you, so it's just John and,
John and
Jay.
Jay.
yeah. But that's a minor thing, I mean, as long as you're, they should officially do it.
So commission officials do it.
The commission,
The commission just needs to take a vote that you're still the representative of the commission.
Do you need any references, Jay?
No,
Just to write anything down
Yes.
for you?
We each hit the bar at meetings.
those are the kind of references I like. All right, so let's look at the meeting schedule, because Jamie said a nice thing, and I think you should send this out to all the applicants, Jamie.
I'm the rookie, I didn't print it all out.
Do you have this, Jess?
I'm sure I do,
Well, as an example, it's the third Thursday of the month generally, and
Right,
Jamie's added a submittal deadline 2 weeks before that.
thank you.
For the main application and other business is a week before. So I like them.
That's fine.
You don't have any problem with them, Jay? Okay, so I would
I
send
didn't see
everything.
if these were holidays or anything.
No, I went through that, so they're all fine. The only thing I noted in there was that July or August, we often don't meet in July or August, typically one but not the other, so. depending on
I
the
think it's
vacation.
dependent on the application.
But
Right,
there's
so-
no applications or.
We haven't met a lot because we don't have any applications.
So they're still marked there, but maybe as a note to applicants that they maybe not, may not be able to get formed, which I happened once or twice in the summer.
Along those lines, if Jamie sends out, when Jamie sends out the Thursday before, please, everybody reply all. I will be there, I can't make it. It's important to me, because if I don't have a quorum, it's a waste of time. I don't think 4 people should discuss anything, even though we can. I don't wanna do it, okay? So I appreciate
Usually
that
it's a
courtesy.
response to.
Just reply all, I will be able to make it.
Okay, so you want a yes or.
Well, because this time, we only got those that couldn't make it.
But I thought that's what was usually asked for.
Yeah, and that's,
Only
I kinda wanna,
so then I can change my.
change your thing.
What it says, please just reply with your available.
That's fine.
yes, it makes me feel better, because
That's why
I have to say, I've had meetings where we know that a couple people aren't coming and 2 other people don't show up and we all have to go home. So I need to know. That's what it is.
I
Okay?
think up here to 16, you can mark me down, I'm not sure.
Well, let us know next week. I believe we're done, are we, Jamie? So Jamie, on the agendas, everywhere we have the funding cycles are given.
Yep, and I'm gonna just put in
All right, can I have a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor? Please note that Jessica seconded the motion.
no, I don't actually have.
I'm in the minute.